I follow you, then you weren't actually a professional dog trainer at that moment that you entered the program.
No.
You were a puppy raiser and obviously someone who probably helped and volunteered at Southeastern.
Right.
And wow, that's interesting because I would have guessed that,
Yeah.
that you would have come to it from a training background and then just sort of veered in.
I actually worked as a volunteer for 6 months doing this, and then was invited on staff as an apprentice trainer. And this summer went back and got my full certification as a professional trainer so that I could do this job well.
That's great, and that's really inspiring. But before we went on air, we were talking a little bit about volunteer opportunities at Southeastern. We'll maybe come back and ask Michael to talk a little bit more about those perhaps. But so then how did you develop the curriculum, if that's the right word, for training dogs to become veteran service dogs in this way?
Well, I think the experience of working with the other trainer that I worked with, the experience that he had with this program, it kind of evolved, seeing what the need of these veterans were, what commands would work best for them, what would help mitigate their experiences, their need for PTSD mitigation, sometimes including balance mitigation, which we would also help with if there were medications or balance issues from their combat situations. And so we developed a protocol of the commands that we would teach, the watch, the block, the hug, and there's other commands as well that would lend to those. And since I have come back from my training, I've incorporated a training that is very different from guide dogs. You know, these dogs are not being trained as guide dogs, so we don't go through the same paces that a guide dog would have to do. They have to learn, how many commands does a guide dog need to know, Mike?
40.
Over 40.
Wow.
The dogs that I train don't really need to know more than 10 specific commands. It's more their behavior and their obedience that is required.
Sure.
So we do it in phases, and so I've developed a protocol of phases that these dogs have to perfect and do well before they are then placed as a service dog for a veteran, and that takes anywhere from 3 to 5 months.
Okay, that was actually one of my next questions. Another question was, as you're describing this, are the dogs that become the veteran service dogs still all drawn from the pool of dogs who started out to be guide dogs for people with visual impairments? Or from what you're saying, it sounds like there's really not necessarily, you know, a need for them to have that initial background, even if they didn't quite work out to remain in that program. So are some of the dogs drawn from other programs or other kinds of sources?
They're not. They all come,
Okay.
they all start out, as Mike said, you know, the primary mission of Southeastern Guide Dogs is to facilitate the independence and mobility of a visually impaired person
Right.
through these guide dogs.
Sure.
And so the dogs that I trained were dogs that were born and bred at Southeastern Guide Dogs, looking for the qualities that a guide dog would need. They were raised in puppy raiser homes. They come in for training. And for whatever reasons, as they go through their guide dog training with a professional trainer, some of them just can't handle that responsibility,
Right, right.
or maybe they have minor physical situations that a visually impaired person couldn't care for, but somebody who could see would have no issue with.
Yeah.
So those are the dogs, or there are some dogs that just are more affectionate than others, and not that they wouldn't make a good guide dog, but if they can't focus on their work, maybe they would make a better veteran service dog,
Sure.
because there is less required of them in that program, although it's just as important.
Right.
It's different.
Yeah, no, I just thought because of what you said about the very different requirements in terms of the commands and other
Right.
things, that they wouldn't necessarily have to come from that pool, but it sounds like in this case they still do.
We build on their
Yeah.
training as guide dogs
Yeah.
and training. We actually, that's a benefit to this program that I think even sets us apart, because the dogs are well trained. When I get them, they're very good dogs,
Yeah.
because they've gone through the raising program.
It's
So-
approximately 40% of our dogs actually grow up and become guide dogs.
Right.
Of the 60% left, they're still very quality animals
Absolutely.
that go into our various different programs. They might become veteran service dogs. They might go into our Gifted Canine program or our Canine Connections program. A whole lot of them actually do become working dogs. You know, Judy was talking about different reasons why a dog might not make a good guide dog. Maybe that dog likes to sniff too much. You know, dogs have an incredible sense of smell,
Sure.
and he might get distracted by odors. Well, that is going to be a dog. Although we don't do the training, we do release those dogs to other organizations that do the training that would make a great law enforcement dog. Say, sniffing out munitions or
Right.
sniffing out drugs or
Sure.
even working in arson investigations, sniffing propellants after fires have gone off. You know, so
There's
these dogs
cancer,
are...
cancer detecting dogs that, and they have a particularly refined sense of smell.
There
There's
are
so many
all
uses,
sorts
yeah.
of applications for
Sure.
dogs these days, and we breed excellent quality dogs that might not become guide dogs, but are perfectly capable of working in some other field.
And being of service to the community, and that we feel like that's just the responsible thing to do.
Sure.
So it's exciting.
That is exciting. Well, this is Talking Animals. If you just tuned in, we're speaking with Judy Bordignon and Michael Jernigan of Southeastern Guide Dogs, discussing the Paws for Patriots program. If you'd like to ask Judy or Michael a question or offer a comment, please call 813-239-9663, or you can email us at dj@wmnf.org. In fact, we've had one caller holding for quite